Hey, what's up? My name's Samuel Leeds, and we are officially in a recession. Yesterday, it was announced that we are officially in a recession for the first time in 11 years. How do I feel about that? How should you feel about that? Well, the first thing I want to say is this is not a big deal. Now, my channel, I guess, is a media outlet, you could call it. I put out information on this channel. Nearly every media outlet, the newspapers, the TV, all they try and do is they try and get views, they try and scare people because bad news and fear-mongering leads people to be excited because people are addicted to bad news and people want to be afraid and they love bad news. Whereas I want to actually just tell you the truth. And the truth is that there's a recession every 10 years. Typically every 10 to 15 years, there'll be a recession. And after a recession, there'll be an expansion. And after an expansion, there'll be a recession. And that's always been the case as far back as we can go. So this is not a big deal. This is nothing to be worried about. However, you do need to be aware of it. You need to know what a recession means. And you need to pivot your business as an entrepreneur and as someone who's responsible for your finances in order to succeed. So first thing is you need to know what a recession actually is. Many people that are scared of a recession don't know what a recession is. So if you don't even know what it is, how can you be afraid of it? Many people that talk about it don't know what it is. So this is a recession. A recession is when there's a general decline in economic activity. That's what it means. There's a general decline in economic activity. Basically, in layman's terms, that means when people aren't spending money. Now, normally when people aren't spending money, it's because they haven't got any money. Maybe there's vast unemployment and there's no money going around, or it could be that the banks aren't giving out money. That can cause a recession. But in this instance, the reason for the recession is because people aren't spending money because they can't, because everything has been closed. So over the last 2 quarters, there's been a downturn in economic spend. But how can people spend money when they're not going out to restaurants, when they can't go to football stadiums, they can't go to concerts, they can't trade, you can't meet people, you're locked down. So when it's almost like it's a shock, we're in a recession. It's like, yeah, well, of course we're in a recession. It's kind of obvious that people aren't spending money. And if people aren't spending money, if that's what the definition of a recession is, then yes, of course, it would have been announced at some point that we are in a recession. It's also really important to note that just because there is a recession right now and generally the economy is doing badly, it isn't necessarily a bad time to start a business. And not every business is struggling and doing bad financially. Some businesses right now are absolutely flourishing, others have been hit, and in a recession and in a boom, that's when there's usually opportunity. People make money and people lose money in a recession and in a boom. So when things are going up and when things are going down, generally within the economy, that's the time to do something, and that's the time to do something big. Right now, if you spoke to Richard Branson, he'd tell you he's struggling right now. Now, on a personal level, I'm sure he's still doing extremely well, but his business is all around things like travel, holidays, planes, trains, where right now, that isn't really functioning. That's not really a thing. So he's losing millions and millions and millions of pounds. He's just sold millions and millions of pounds worth of shares of one of his businesses. So right now, Richard Branson is going to be thinking, all right, I need to do something a little bit different. On the other hand, some people like Jeff Bezos is absolutely rolling in it. He's rolling in the deep. Jeff actually had a divorce which cost him £38 billion. Just let that sink in. Jeff lost £38 billion. Now, £1 million is a lot of money. A million, 1,000 times is a billion. He lost £38 billion when he got divorced. However, since the pandemic, he's now made all that money back. Amazon is doing better than it's ever done before because people are ordering things online. So for Jeff's business, it's a really good thing. For Richard Branson's business, it's not a good thing. So what does that mean for you? Well, what that means for you is you want to think, okay, well, how can I, in this recession that we are officially in as from yesterday, how can I do a business, a service, have a product that can flourish right now as opposed to having it go really bad? Now, don't forget as well that this lockdown that's happening is we're coming out of the lockdown, so things are beginning to get back to normal for a lot of businesses. So it's not to say, oh my goodness, let's just only do online businesses and let's close down I run an events business. I have a training company. And over the last few months, my training company has been hit really bad. Now some people think, oh, boo-hoo, Samuel, but this isn't about me. My salary comes from my property business. I'm in the same boat, but my training business, I've got staff that need to be employed, and some of those staff, their full-time job is to go to events and do the lighting and the sound. And right now, we're not running events. So my training business, my events business, has been hit hard. And then in other areas to my business, some of my property business is going exceedingly well. I've actually had to refinance some of my properties to pay wages for some of my staff. It's been a really crazy, challenging time. But the thing is, it's really important to note that as an entrepreneur, you need to adapt, you need to be fluid. That's part of being an entrepreneur. So when I hear words like recession, I get excited because I know that in a recession and a boom, that's when people make most money. I had a friend around my house yesterday, his name's Rory. He was sat in this chair where I'm sitting. He's making £8 million a year. He's got the largest guttering business in the UK. And he said that profits have never been as high as they are right now in this pandemic and lockdown. So that's the thing. How can you be on this side rather than on this side? How can you, rather than worrying about the economy, how can you make sure that you have a good economy? Because I really, really believe that we create our own economy. So you might be thinking, but Samuel, what about property? This is a property channel. I'm a property investor. You're a property investor. What about property? So let me talk a little bit about property right now. Although we're in a recession, house prices are not going down right now. Despite what the media will tell you, the media lie with headlines. They've been putting headlines out in the newspapers, property prices down 4 months in a row. And it's like, listen, you read this and you think, oh my gosh, property prices down. But it's like, okay, so in a particular area, and how much down? 4 months in a row down. Oh, 0.1%. Come on, media. Stop trying to scare people with your headlines. That's what they do. Last month, across the UK, house prices in July actually were up 1.6%. Media. They'll sell stories that try and scare people. Property prices are doing just fine. Now, I always say this though, and I'm going to say this again. Don't worry about what property prices are going to do in the next couple years, because when I started in property, I started in 2008. I was buying in 2009. Everyone was saying, terrible time to buy. I bought, and guess what? House prices went down. And everyone would have said, terrible, terrible, terrible. Doesn't matter, because I held onto the properties and then they went up. So if you're buying a property to hold onto it, it's not a bad time to buy right now. Ultimately, capital appreciation will happen, but it's also really important to remember that capital appreciation does not pay the bills. So when you buy a house, don't just buy it and think about what's going to happen in the next year or so. Listen, I can sit here all day long and talk about predictions and what I think is going to happen, and I can say it right now. London is going to go down. Liverpool is going to go up. That's going to happen. That's my opinion, but I don't want you to buy for that reason. I want you to buy for cash flow. I want you to buy for return on investment. But I'll tell you something, it's important to do something. Don't just sit there and rely on the government and your employer, because right now jobs, 730,000 people over this lockdown period have been made redundant. I believe that there'll be over 1 million people just from a result of this pandemic that are going to lose their jobs, often with nothing to go to, which is why I think so passionately it's important to not rely on the government or on an employer, but to rely on yourself and be an entrepreneur and make sure that whether the market's going up, whether the market's going down, you know how to make money. Richard Branson right now, yes, he's probably a little bit stressed. He's struggling. His businesses are really struggling. He might lose some. I think one of them even went bankrupt in the US, one of his Virgin companies. But guess what? Richard Branson is going to be okay. Don't worry about Richard Branson. I'll tell you one thing, he's going to be fine. Why? Because his blueprint is programmed for success. He's going to be just fine. Don't worry about Jeff. Don't worry about me. You need to worry about making sure that you are going to become successful and going to become wealthy through this pandemic, through this recession. If you want to see what I think what's going to happen in the future, the predictions over the next year or so, then you can check out this video right here. If you want to subscribe to this channel, you really should do that. Then do that right here. And guys, please do smash the like button, drop a comment, and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.